Jurassic World Rebirth in 2010, hidden on the remote and mysterious Isla de San Hubert, amidst the vast Atlantic Ocean, lie the secret facilities of InGen. Here, far from public view and any scientific ethics, a team of researchers led by Williams embarks on a project of unimaginable proportions, the creation of transgenetically mutated dinosaurs. These beings aren't mere replicas of the past. They are genetic abominations, designed for unknown but clearly dangerous purposes. Tragedy, however, strikes unexpectedly. During a routine inspection, Williams, distracted, accidentally drops a Snickers bar wrapper into the door mechanism of a containment unit. This small error causes a catastrophic failure, a short circuit that disables security systems and opens the facility's gates. The consequence is immediate and lethal. The Distortus Rex, D-Rex, is unleashed, one of InGen's most terrifying and deformed creations, a six-limbed tyrannosaur that wreaks havoc in the laboratory. Williams, unable to escape, becomes the first victim of his own creation, brutally devoured by the D-Rex, forcing the remaining personnel to abandon the island in a hurry, leaving behind a legacy of destruction and an unleashed predator. 5 years have passed since the events of Jurassic World Dominion and the Biosyn incident, which released a plague of transgenic locusts and reintroduced dinosaurs to the world. Contrary to many expectations, Earth has not proven to be a welcoming refuge for these prehistoric creatures. The global climate has drastically changed, becoming inhospitable and accelerating a second mass extinction for the dinosaur population. Humanity's initial fascination has waned. Dinosaurs are no longer a novelty, but a constant reminder of the ecosystem's fragility. The few surviving dinosaurs have been forced to migrate to tropical zones concentrated around the equator, where climatic conditions still resemble their ancestral habitats. These areas, now forced sanctuaries for the creatures, have been declared exclusion zones, with human travel strictly prohibited to prevent further conflict. It is in this context of environmental crisis and public disinterest that a new opportunity or perhaps a new threat emerges. Martin Krebs, a cunning representative from Parker Genix, an influential pharmaceutical company. Krebs isn't there by chance. He has contacted Zora Bennett, a highly skilled former military covert operations expert, renowned for her high-stakes extraction abilities. Krebs takes Zora to a dinosaur museum on the verge of closing, where they meet paleontologist Dr. Henry Loomis. Henry, a true scholar and dinosaur enthusiast who studied under the legendary Dr. Alan Grant, is skeptical but intrigued. Krebs presents Parker Genix's ambitious and dangerous objective: to travel to the forbidden Isla de San Hubert, to retrieve DNA samples from 3 of the largest and most vital creatures still surviving. A Mosasaurus, the largest marine creature, a Titanosaurus, the terrestrial giant, and a Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying reptile. The premise is bold. The DNA of these colossal beings could hold the key to developing a miraculous drug, capable of combating human diseases and saving millions of lives. However, behind the noble humanitarian cause, Parker Genix's corporate interests, and particularly Krebs's, are undeniable. The possibility of a patent and astronomical profits. To execute such a massive mission, an elite team is formed. Zora, Henry, and Krebs travel to Paramaribo to meet Duncan Kincaid, a team leader with vast experience in dangerous situations and a shared past with Zora, having lost a mutual friend on a previous mission. The trust between Duncan and Zora is palpable, forged in the crucible of high-risk operations. The rest of the team includes other veterans: Bobby Ater, a loyal companion to Zora, the mercenary Nina, and the driver Leclerc. Duncan, aware of the risks and implications, negotiates tough conditions with Krebs before accepting the mission, making it clear he will not tolerate recklessness. During preparation, the team discusses not only the logistics and imminent dangers, but also the complex moral dilemmas of their mission, the ethics of potentially killing dinosaurs for human benefit, a debate that resonates with the ghosts of InGen's past. As the team heads for Isla de San Hubert, somewhere in the vast Atlantic Ocean, an innocent family experiences their own nightmare. Ruben Delgado is peacefully sailing his boat with his daughters, Teresa and Isabella, and Teresa's boyfriend, Xavier. Ruben, a protective father, has serious reservations about Xavier, whom he considers conceited and lazy, though Teresa tries to make her father see the positive qualities in her partner. The apparent tranquility of the journey shatters abruptly when the boat is violently rammed by a massive Mosasaurus, capsizing the vessel and throwing everyone into the water. Xavier narrowly escapes the marine predator's jaws, and Ruben, desperate, sends a distress call over the radio. Duncan's team intercepts the signal. Although some members object to diverting the mission for civilians, Duncan decides to rescue them. After bringing them aboard their vessel, the horror continues. A pack of Pinosaurus emerges from the depths, hunting in collaboration with the Mosasaurus, and begins to attack the boat. Bobby Ater is the team's first casualty, dragged by Apinosaurus's teeth and mercilessly devoured. Teresa, in the chaos, tries to use the boat's radio for help, but Krebs, obsessed with maintaining the mission's secrecy, struggles with her to snatch it away. In the scuffle, Teresa loses her balance and falls overboard, while Krebs, coldly, refuses to help her. Without hesitation, Xavier dives into the water after her, closely followed by Ruben and Isabella. Zora, aware of the urgency, moves forward. The Mosasaurus swims at astonishing speed, ramming the boat and trying to trap her. In an act of skill and bravery, Zora manages to shoot it with the dart containing the DNA collection vial. Once the sample is obtained, Zora activates her makeshift parachute and propels herself out of the Mosasaurus's reach, returning to the crew. After escaping the jaws of the marine creatures, Duncan, in a risky but necessary move, crashes the boat onto the jagged coasts of Isla de San Hubert, seeking refuge on solid ground. Arrival on the island offers no respite. As the crew tries to recover their equipment from the wrecked boat, tragedy strikes again. Nina is dragged away by Apinosaurus and devoured, a harsh blow to the already depleted team. Zora, Henry, Duncan, Krebs, and Leclerc, with morale low but the mission still pending, venture into the island's dense jungle. Their path leads them to an astonishing encounter with two Titanosaurus, the colossal terrestrial sauropods. For Henry, a paleontologist at heart, seeing them up close is a moment of pure emotion. Zora, maintaining professionalism, manages to obtain the second required DNA sample. During this moment, Henry shares a crucial vision with Zora. He firmly believes that any medicine they develop should not be patented or controlled by any corporation, but should be available to all humanity, an idea that resonates with Zora's own morality. Meanwhile, the Delgado family, unaware of the secret mission and with no other option, moves on their own, desperately searching for a village or anyone who can help them off the island. During their journey, Ruben begins to see a more vulnerable and heroic side to Xavier, the young man he had judged so harshly. In a moment of need, Xavier steps away to relieve himself and is stalked by two raptors. However, the island's food chain is brutal. A mutadon, a hybrid of raptor and pterosaur, descends from the sky, scares off one of the raptors, and carries away the corpse of the other, demonstrating the ferocity of the island's new mutant species. Meanwhile, little Isabella, with her childlike curiosity, finds an Aquilops hatchling whom she quickly adopts and names Dolores, forming an unexpected bond amidst the danger. The next morning, the Delgado family continues their journey until they encounter a rushing river. Dolores, startled by something unseen, flees. Teresa bravely decides to investigate and finds the brutally mangled corpse of a dinosaur, revealing the imminent presence of a sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex. The T-Rex awakens, and a frantic chase downriver begins. The family manages to find an inflatable raft and desperately tries to escape. Isabella, in a critical moment, is almost devoured by the giant predator, but the family, working together, narrowly escapes. The T-Rex unexpectedly demonstrates its ability to swim, overtaking the raft and positioning itself in front of them again. The raft capsizes, throwing the entire family into the water. Although they manage to get to safety from the dinosaur, Isabella hides under the raft, becoming the T-Rex's target. Ruben, Xavier, and Teresa, safe for a moment, watch in horror. Just as the T-Rex bites the raft, Isabella emerges from the water and swims desperately towards her father. She manages to get to safety, and surprisingly, the raft also survives, allowing them to continue their escape. Meanwhile, Zora's team prepares for the final and riskiest step of their mission, scaling a formidable cliff to find the Quetzalcoatlus cave and obtain the last sample. Zora tries to calm Henry, visibly nervous, having never attempted such a climb. After receiving instructions, Zora, Henry, and Leclerc begin their descent down the rock face. At the top, Duncan and Martin Krebs remain, holding the ropes, and it is at this moment that they discover a hidden entrance in the cliff face, an access that could change the course of their escape. After an exhausting descent, Zora and Henry finally reach a flying reptile's nest, confirming the Quetzalcoatlus's presence. Henry successfully extracts the sample from one of the eggs. However, just as they finish, the gigantic adult Quetzalcoatlus appears, furious at the intrusion, and attacks. Leclerc tries to warn them, but it's too late. The imposing telosaurio, a term seemingly used interchangeably for the Quetzalcoatlus in this context, begins to attack them. The collected sample falls dangerously onto a ledge on the wall. Leclerc, in an act of sacrifice, manages to distract the predator, giving Henry and Zora the time they need to escape. As Martin and Duncan begin pulling on the ropes to hoist Leclerc to safety, Henry, in his attempt to retrieve the sample, scrambles and ends up precariously hanging from a rope. In a heartbreaking instant, the Pterosaurio reaches Leclerc and brutally devours him in front of the horrified eyes of Martin and Duncan, who desperately take refuge in the hidden entrance they had discovered. Zora, for her part, manages to stop her own fall, but the rope won't hold much longer. Risking everything for the crucial sample, Henry swings and, attempting to grab it, falls into the void. However, dense vegetation breaks his fall, and Henry miraculously survives by landing in the water. Zora descends on her rope, while Martin and Duncan, using the hidden entrance, descend via a staircase. The sample that had flown off when Henry touched it lands near them. With the 3 DNA samples finally in their possession, the group heads towards a pre-established rendezvous point, which, coincidentally, is also the destination of the Delgado family. The reunion is tense. Teresa, upon encountering Martin Krebs again, explodes in fury, confronting him for abandoning her when she fell into the water. Zora, dismayed by the accusation, interrogates Martin, who tries to defend himself. Martin then demands the DNA samples, and Zora reluctantly hands them over. As they argue heatedly, little Isabella, with her keen perception, warns the group of imminent danger. The lights of an abandoned laboratory switch on, attracting a pack of Mutadonis, the hybrid raptor pterosaurs created by InGen. Everyone scrambles for cover. Martin and Zora hide under a car, while the Delgado family takes refuge in a nearby store. A Mutadon pursues Isabella, who, having reunited with her loyal Dolores, the Aquilops hatchling, hides in one of the laboratory's freezers. Ruben, with cunning, manages to distract the Mutadon, allowing the family to reunite and escape through the sewers, a complex underground system that runs through part of the island and empties into the sea. In an act of betrayal, Martin abandons Zora, fleeing in the van that was protecting them and taking the 3 DNA samples with him. Meanwhile, Henry and Duncan manage to find the main laboratory where the dinosaur mutations were carried out, discovering the truth behind the hybrid creatures. Just then, they see the rescue helicopter arriving at the island. Zora, hidden among the vegetation, pursues one of the Mutadonis that slips into the sewers. Martin, in his escape, desperately tries to get the helicopter's attention, which, after several reconnaissance passes, prepares to leave. However, a Tyrannosaurus appears out of nowhere, attacks Martin's van, and violently throws it to the ground. Martin, injured and terrified, flees after the attack and reunites with Duncan. Both, with no other option, also enter the sewers where the rest of the group is hiding. After a long and tense underground journey, they meet Zora, who attacks and wounds the Mutadon that was pursuing her, clearing a path for everyone to an outdoor area. A security fence prevents their exit, but Isabella, demonstrating astonishing bravery, manages to squeeze between the bars and activate the mechanism to open the gate. It is then that a Distortus Rex, confirming the presence of the original hybrid predator, arrives and directly attacks Martin, who was still desperately fleeing with the samples. The D-Rex mercilessly devours Martin, while the group, in a joint effort, manages to close the gate on the Mutadon and escape the Distortus Rex, recovering the briefcase with the precious samples. The Distortus Rex, incredibly fast, relentlessly pursues them and manages to corner little Isabella. Duncan, in a heroic act of sacrifice, doesn't hesitate and uses a flare to draw the D-Rex's attention, putting Isabella to safety and risking his own life. While the Distortus Rex chases Duncan, the rest of the group manages to board a speedboat and quickly move away from the area. After a few minutes of tension and despair, they see the light of a flare in the distance. Duncan is still alive. With a sigh of relief, they turn the boat around and rescue him. Finally, the 7 survivors are safe, sailing in the open sea, leaving behind the horrors of Isla de San Hubert. As the sun begins to rise on the horizon, Zora and Henry engage in a crucial conversation about the future of the DNA samples. Zora, influenced by their shared experiences and Henry's morality, agrees with his decision. They will distribute the medicine without a patent. This selfless act ensures that anyone in the world, regardless of their economic status, can access a drug that could revolutionize human health, closing a chapter of horror and opening one of hope, perhaps a true rebirth for humanity.